Hi everyone, Dan from Paddle and Portage Canoes here, and it's a Friday afternoon, just finished work doing a guiding gig doing tree climbing up in the Southern Highlands for a school, and we've got to get ready for a trip. Me and my friend Drew, we're planning a micro adventure from tomorrow afternoon, around about 6 o'clock, paddling out to Tallowa Dam, camping across, waking up the next morning, carrying our boat up and over and doing the Lower Shoalhaven out to a place called Coolindale before I have to head out to the snow for Monday, Tuesday with my partner. So we've got a huge amount to do in a really small amount of time, but I just thought I'd quickly do this video to try and show what we're packing for this trip, because it's an awesome little micro adventure, but it's really important that we bring the right stuff with us. So we'll start with clothing and layering. First off, going to bring a spare pair of underwear, pretty vital piece of equipment. That'll just be the spares for the next day, so keeping it simple. Again, we're moving fast, quick, trying to get through things quite quickly, so we'll just be bringing the bare minimum in terms of clothing. So we'll have spare underwear, and then getting into the actual layering system, what I'm really getting into lately has been sun hoodies. So that's a long sleeve top with a hood, nice thin layer, so it's breathable. I've got a pretty good range of them now, about 4 or 5. I've really been loving them. I will only bring one on a trip, but I've been trying out some different brands. So I'll be bringing this one on the trip, one from a brand called Hooke. The next thing will be obviously an active layer. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, an active layer, it's a warm layer that you can still wear while you're doing active things. So you don't want to sweat too much while you're doing things. The active layer that I will be bringing on this trip is a nice, stretchy, really thin fleece. I believe it's one of the kind of Polartec sort of, one of just micro fleeces that they have nowadays. They're getting pretty fancy, but this will be my choice for this one today. It's a full zip one. I do really enjoy using grid fleeces as another option. So you could use either one, whatever works best for you, but I'm really testing this one out. That's one I got over in Canada. So really been enjoying this one lately. But basically, as long as you've got an active layer to wear in the mornings while it's a little bit chilly, that doesn't make you sweat too much under your life jacket, that's a really great option for a trip like this. Now, an active layer is great. It's really good to keep you warm while you're moving, but as soon as you stop, it's not really going to cut it in terms of keeping you properly warm at night. Now, we are coming into spring, so it's not super cold, but it's still at that point where I really need to think about keeping warm at night. My favorite warmer layer that I've been using, I'm really a big fan of synthetics for paddle sports, because if they do get wet, they still keep you warm. So this is the Mont Guide hoodie. It's actually become our guiding uniform. So it's got our guiding brand on there, but I wear it out to dinner. I wear it everywhere because it's just such a good jacket, windproof, water resistant as well. So it's almost like a rain jacket, not seam sealed, so not totally waterproof, but will do the job in a lot of places. And it's just been my go-to for warm layers over going down, because they won't keep you warm if they get wet. So synthetic insulation layers, really helpful. That's just one option. There are a bunch of different brands out there, but really good option. Make sure you have a warm layer on top of your active layer. Now for the bottom half, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of in springtime, so not too hot, not too cold, but it can get a little bit chillier at night. So I've got a long pair of thermals to wear to bed, or under my pants if it is quite cold in the morning. So these are obviously not cotton, but some sort of thermal really helps to insulate you that little bit more if you need it in bed or at camp. So keep that in mind. Great option to always bring. In the summer, maybe not so necessary, but right now, really great option. So the main type of pants that I really like to use when paddling is actually a long hiking pant or quick dry pant. A lot of people go for boardies or swimmers or shorts. What I've found is that you get really sunburnt here, like we're in New South Wales. In most places in Australia, sun is an issue. So using long pants gives you the ability to roll it all the way down in the high sun or roll it up if you would like, but it gives you that option. And If they're quick drying, obviously they can they dry out if you do get wet, just like swimmers would. If they're not cotton, they're actually going to still insulate you if they're warm. So really long pair of hiking pants. Some people might not consider that for canoeing as a first option, but over the years I've found this is super, super helpful for managing myself in the sun without needing to reapply sunscreen every couple of hours. And it's just super helpful. So it's almost like a no-brainer to bring a longer pair of pants, I have found, on canoeing trips, because there's no shade or way to escape from that sun. So food for thought if you're a shorts person, but that's just me. An essential part to any layering system when going out in the outdoors is a waterproof layer or windproof layer. Because we don't have a huge amount of rain forecast, I'm sticking with a really simple, thin, basically running rain jacket, so it's at least something for me. But if I was actually going to be expecting rain, I'd be carrying something a little bit heavier duty. And if we were expecting really big water, I'd be wearing a cag. But for this particular trip, I'll just be bringing a small, thin, lightweight jacket to make carrying a little bit easier, but still having that backup if I do need to try and keep myself warm or protected from the wind. Getting into some paddling specific clothing, one thing that's kind of changed my experience on the water and enjoying the actual process of getting to the canoe, as well as making sure my feet stay comfortable throughout the day without causing too many hygiene issues around my feet, has been waterproof socks. I've found that wearing these sort of things under your wet shoes just means your feet aren't getting absolutely soaked and sitting in wet shoes all day. It also means that my feet don't get blisters when I do get out and start moving around. Also during winter, actually keeping your feet warm and not having your toes feeling like they're going to fall off. So I've gone to the Deck Shell brand in recent months because they've got a really nice rubberized section on the top, which actually holds them up over the course of the day. I found some other ones that I've used that didn't have this, rolled down and got a little bit annoying, and also meant that when you did step in, they might fall down and water would come in. So the Deck Shell ones have been really cool in the last couple of months and been an awesome part of my kit. Plus they actually hug my feet really well and can fit a ankle sock or something under there for some extra insulation. So waterproof socks, really, really nice to have, or whether it's flat water, whether it's white water, whether it's winter, whether it's summer, doesn't matter. Keeping your feet dry really does help because we find we get in and out of the boat pretty regularly. So the next thing I'm a really big advocate for is a solid river shoe. A lot of people go for kind of like a neoprene, really, really thin shoe. I think a proper river boot is essential for being able to use your canoe to the fullest in being able to just paddle up to somewhere, get out, walk on rocks with confidence. They need to be thick enough that you're not going to damage your feet when you do go on the rocks, and enough grip that they are going to stick to the rocks really well. I really like the Astral brand. Anything they do and everything I've used from them has been really great. So big thing, nice water shoes, especially in a whitewater environment like the trip that we will be doing. We've basically got to get out pretty regularly, scout out rapids, all those sort of things, and protecting your feet makes a big difference. And also having a lot of drainage that you don't have water just sitting in the shoe. I'll have the waterproof socks, but it does really, really make a difference in terms of weight and all those sort of things as water drains out of that shoe and doesn't just sit there stewing over the course of the day. So river boots, another great thing that has changed the way I look at how I deal with my feet in a river situation. The last part of the clothing section of this video is going to be my hat. I've started using 5-panel hats. This one has a floating brim, but the idea is they don't have a pin on the top, which makes them great for fitting under helmets. I'm going to be wearing a helmet for the whole day on the Lower Shoalhaven, so being able to still wear a hat without worrying about pressure points of a pin or just not being able to wear a hat at all is a really great thing. So really been enjoying the 5-panel hats for that reason and for anything in the outdoors that I need a helmet for. So that'll be that one. So moving out of clothing and moving into some of the camping essentials, I'm going to be bringing a 2-person tent on this trip. Because I don't have to carry it that far, it's only about a 750 metre portage up and over to Tallowa Dam and only about a 200 metre from our starting point to the river. So a little bit of extra weight for that extra bit of room to move around, even though I'm sleeping on my own, is super, super nice. That being said, it isn't a super heavy 2-person tent, about 2 kilos, but for some people, they may not want to bring that if they're carrying it long distances. But bringing some of that luxury in a canoe, since you don't have to carry it long distances, is a really great benefit of the sport in general. So I'll be using my 2-person tent on this trip. As for one of the most important comfort parts of a sleeping system, the sleeping mat, I'll be going for the Cedar Summit Etherlight XT. I've had this mat for a few years, great little one. I'm definitely an inflatable mat person, and I've now gotten into the large or wide versions of sleeping mats, just for that extra bit of comfort, that extra bit of being able to move around without having to try and rotate completely on the same spot, which I got pretty good at as a guide, but it certainly helps with that ease of going to sleep and more restful sleep in having a wider mat for that comfort and for not much gain in weight. So for this one, it will be the Cedar Summit sleeping mat, which again is a tried and true one for me. I do have other ones, but this will be the one on this trip. For sleeping bags, I always go down to down bags, even though a synthetic bag is a really great option to keep you safe, and if it does get wet, it will still keep you insulated. I find that just being able to pack it down smaller is a really great benefit to a down bag, and obviously they're a little bit lighter, but you just need to be a little bit more cautious with them. So trying to make sure they're double waterproofed, no matter how waterproof you think your actual waterproofing is. Double, triple, quadruple. You can never have too much waterproofing on a canoeing trip or paddling trip, or especially a whitewater trip. Waterproofing, 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 regardless of what your gear is made of. That is my main thing. So this is actually a -7 bag. I'll probably unzip it fully into a doona, but this is the bag I'll be using. Lastly, we spoke about looking after your down products. I really don't like to wash them too often, so I find a liner makes a big difference to that. This is just I've had this liner nearly 10 years now, so you don't need anything super special, but something just to pull you away from the bag, make sure that you're not sweating in the bag, make sure that you're basically just looking after it as much as you can without carrying too much extra weight to do it. Makes a big difference to how often you have to wash your down products, which just means that they last longer, make sure that they won't leak feathers as often. All those sort of things makes a big difference. So again, a liner is something that I've used to make sure that all my down products are looked after properly. Now, because we're actually leaving quite late, we're probably going to have dinner before we even leave. So there's not much cooking that we need to do. However, I probably will still bring my stove. I've got the Soto Windmaster and just a small 600 ml titanium pot and a little gas canister. But the reason for that is I still like my coffee in the morning. I still may have another dinner, so I'll just bring a backup dehydrated meal. And it's good to have the option to heat up some water if you need it. If you do go in, you get cold, all those sort of things. So I will be bringing a small stove, but it'll be a bit minimal. So just the stove, just the pot. If I was wanting to cook a larger meal, I would bring up to a 3-litre pot that can go over my sleeping bag, so it doesn't take up any extra space. And then I'd bring a few more extra utensils and things like that. So I will have a spoon, which I'll show you shortly. But yeah, very small, simple, and lightweight as well, because we will be doing some carrying. So that's what I'll be doing in terms of the cooking situation. When we're talking about cooking, hydration's actually a really hard thing to keep track of while you're out on the water, because you are surrounded by water. So a lot of people I have found when I'm out with them, if they're beginners, struggle to remember to drink water. And I sometimes have that myself as well. So I always want to make sure I have a water bottle easily at hand. So I bring 1 litre to have sitting at my feet while I'm paddling at all times. And then I usually carry a water bladder. Now, this is a 6 litre water bladder from MSR, the Dromedary. It's nice and robust, so it can just sit in the canoe without worrying about getting it popped. But I have the 6 litre because you're not carrying stuff super far, so you can fill it up and have that extra water for cleaning and all those sort of things. But you also don't need to fill it all the way if you do need to go a little bit lighter. So I'll probably have 2 litres in this and then 1 litre in here, just for kind of getting us through. And then if I need to refill, I'll have some little tablets for purifying water as we go, because we are on the river. But because we're a little bit time poor, it does help to have that water on hand without needing to stop, refill, treat it, and then wait before you can drink again. So if we need to do things, we can do it at camp and just have it easily accessible. So that's what I'll be bringing for water to make sure we stay hydrated out on the river. So we moved away from some of the really obvious essentials like your sleep system, like your shelter, like some of the hydration things. But there are a couple of things that people don't think about as much as they should. And the first thing in that category I would like to highlight is a personal locator beacon. Now, I got this just because I do a lot of adventures, I do a lot of stuff solo, I do it with friends, and it's so easy to just go, oh, everything will be okay. But I have been in situations where we've come across people outside of our group that need assistance, or someone's rolled an ankle, and you could see just how easily things can go wrong if you're not careful, or if things just don't go your way. So I've taken to carrying this as a bare minimum. A lot of the times I also get access to a satellite phone that I can borrow. I think this is a bare minimum on any type of trip where you're out of reception. It's great that some phones are now getting satellite communication capability, but being able to just pull a button and hope that work's coming, and then being able to back it up if you've got that extra stuff, certainly gives you peace of mind, but also makes life a lot easier for anyone that does need to come and help you. So really, really essential piece of kit for your safety and for those that go out with you. So please make sure you have some alternative way to communicate with the outside world, especially when you're doing things like whitewater that have an inherent risk attached to them. So very, very important piece of kit. Another thing that a lot of people get the concept of, but it's not always done right, is toileting. So we do have a shovel. It's not an ultralight one like hiking. I do find that creates a bit of a laziness on how deep you're willing to dig your hole to make sure that everything's in the right spot. So just make sure you've got something that you're actually willing to dig with, and obviously making sure you've got toilet paper, hand sanitizer for good hygiene. That's really, really important. But a lot of people may not realize this, but you're actually meant to go to the bathroom at least 100 meters away from any form of water source. So if you're ever out on the river and if you're ever needing to go to the bathroom in an emergency and you can't find a drop toilet or something like that, you really need to make sure that you're away from these water sources. Where we'll be going is a backup water supply for Sydney, so it's really, really important, even more so than normal, that we're managing ourselves properly with that hygiene, with that toileting. So really make sure you think about how your whole toileting system is going to work for you, that you can do it correctly and responsibly. So keep that in mind. Another thing, head torch. I am a big fan of more light, more better. That's my preference. So I have a 1500 lumen head torch. That gives me the ability to look far distances if I'm trying to find a campsite at night, which will be super beneficial tomorrow night when we're looking for our campsite after paddling in the dark. Plus it's got some lower settings for when I'm doing things close by. So I like having that versatility that a torch like this works. It's also a fully waterproof submergible, so IPX68, so that's dustproof and waterproof, so fully submergible, which is super handy in a canoeing situation. I also use this one canyoning, so that's actually a Phoenix head torch, the HMR 65T. Travis and I have both been using this head torch for a long time, so we've got a lot of good things to say about it. So that's the one I'll be using on this trip. Again, we're out of the obvious essentials. I have a little kit that I always bring with me that I now consider essential because it's a bunch of little things that I've found have been necessary in a lot of situations. However, they're not something you'll use all the time. So in here is a battery pack with some power cables for the specific things I'll need to charge. So that's cameras, that might be a satellite phone, that's my phone as well. So it's good to have that ability. I know a lot of people have that sort of thing that they need to bring. This kit also has my spoon, toothbrush, toothpaste, all those things. In terms of a very small amount of first aid, because it's only a personal trip for me, I do have a bigger one for guiding, but something for hydration. So that's Hydrolyte, a small first aid kit with a bunch of band-aids, bandages, some medications, and alcohol swabs and all those sort of things. Zip ties, which fix anything in the bush. I've used them on hiking packs, I've used them on tents, I've used them to make my pants tighter when a belt breaks. So many things you can use those for to help you in those situations. I've got a little pump for blowing up my mat, the FlexTail Zero pump. I've found that just is a nice little luxury, not something everyone needs though. And then a pole sleeve for repairing tents if the wind comes and takes out your tent or snaps a pole. I've needed these for people I've guided with so many times. I carry a lot more when I'm guiding, but just one for my tent when it's just me. So that's a super helpful piece of kit if you haven't got one in your kit already. Little lighter, and I've actually got a flint and steel in case I've got some serious issues with not being able to light my stove or anything and my lighter isn't working. So that's probably a little bit of overkill. I'd probably just bring the lighter in most cases. That's just kind of already in the kit, so I can't be bothered taking it out, to be honest. So that's what's in that little kit as my utility, little bit of everything kit. So getting out of the essentials, I now have my one luxury item, which is a chair. This is the Helinox Chair Zero. Because I've been using it on sand a little bit more, because we've been canoeing, because some of the places I've been hiking lately have been a bit more sandy. I've now got the ground sheet for this to stop it actually sinking into the sand. So that's made a big difference for me. But chair, really nice little luxury to have at camp. Probably don't need it super, like a huge amount on this trip, but it'll be nice to have when we do get into camp. So I've decided to bring it anyway. Before we get into the actual paddling gear, which will be the last sort of category, I want to talk about what we're carrying it all in. So whenever I go on a canoe trip, I have my main big bag, but it's also really helpful to have a second bag easily accessible where I can have my snacks, my rain jacket, my torch, all those things that you might need at a moment's notice, where you don't want to pull the canoe all the way over to the bank, get out, get your big bag, dig through your big bag. So having just a smaller bag of some kind is great. If I'm on a flat water trip, I'll bring a day bag of up to 30 or 40 liters. But for this trip, I'll be bringing a 20 liter dry bag. I really trust the Seal Line dry bags. This is the one I've taken in canyons. It's been submerged a lot, so it's proven itself. Other brands I've had haven't been held up as well. So that's why I choose to take the Seal Line ones. So a small bag that can also fit inside your larger bag for a trip like this where you're going to need to carry everything. It helps to kind of be able to put everything into one bag, but then be able to remove it out when you're actually in the canoe. So this fits that category pretty much perfectly. So I'll be bringing that one on this trip. Next up, as you can see, we've got a little bit of gear, and because we're actually going to be carrying the canoe and our gear all in one go, all the way up over to the dam, I've actually got a dry pack as opposed to just a big dry bag or a barrel. So this is a 120 liter dry bag with a fully set up sort of hiking bag harness system. This has been an awesome bag. Travis and I did a big 3 kilometer portage down into Bungonia and paddled all the way back to Kangaroo Valley at the end of last year. If you want to see the video, I'll leave a link around here or down in the description. But this was awesome for that trip, and it's also going to work really well for this one because, again, I can fit all of my normal kit, my clothes, my sleep system, all that thing, everything fits in here. Plus I can fit my 20-litre dry bag and my life jacket, whitewater rescue gear and helmet without having to really be super strategic in the way I pack. So that is an awesome thing, and it can actually carry the weight really well with the harness system that's set up. So that's the Seal Line Pro Dry Pack 120. This has been an awesome piece of kit for a bunch of different adventures and can be used in just for normal paddling, flat water trips as well, and transporting gear from the car to the water. So really good piece of kit there. So one of my favorite bits of paddling specific dry storage. So that's that one. Last but not least, we are going to get into the actual paddling gear itself. So the things that make the activity that bit more enjoyable. The canoe we'll be using for this trip as a whitewater expedition trip will be the Eskeef Prospector Sport in T4MX Light. I've had this boat for a couple of months. It's great as a solo boat. It's great as a tandem boat, both on the flat water and the whitewater. I do find it doesn't have the same performance as a composite for straight tracking and speed on the flat water, although it does perform well considering, but it excels so much in that whitewater environment. So really good to put it through its paces on a tandem trip. I have been mostly paddling it solo recently, so really excited for that in getting out in that boat for the next couple of days. As for paddles, again, this will be a whitewater trip, but there will be longer sections of flat water involved as well. So I'm bringing 2 paddles as a result. So I've got my Eskeef whitewater paddle. I've been using this a lot lately and I'm really impressed with how it's been holding up to smacking on the rocks for a carbon paddle. Nice and light, great stiffness, great performance, and really scoops the water without fatiguing you too much. However, you do pull a lot of water, which does lead to fatigue on the flat waters compared to something like this, which is a nice traditional flat water paddle. So I will be swapping to this paddle, but in the flat water sections, but definitely moving to this to get the whitewater performance I need, basically to perform in the rapids and make the maneuvers that we want to do. So those are the 2 paddles I'll be bringing for me. We have some wooden whitewater paddles that Drew will be using as well in the front. Now, life jackets are a pretty important piece of kit. They're definitely a safety piece of kit. And again, because of the environment we're in, I'm actually needing a bit more out of my jacket. So I am going to use a whitewater rescue jacket. This is the Astral Green jacket. The reason why this is super helpful is it's got a lot of whitewater features. I can carry all of my rescue kit in it. Plus, if I do go in, it's really tough and can kind of protect me from hitting rocks. And it does have a lot of rescue features. I won't go into that too much now, but it is a really great piece of kit in an emergency. Plus, it's really comfortable to paddle in, and you've got some great storage for snacks and emergency kits. So that's my main whitewater jacket. And then with the whitewater scenario, there is also the possibility of going in. So we need to protect our head from impacts. Helmet, super essential piece for that. This is nothing super special. It was actually gifted to me by Travis, which I've really, really appreciated. So I haven't had to go and buy a new one yet, but it's really looked after me well. So this is a WRSI one. Again, pretty simple. So you don't need anything super fancy to start you off, but it is something that protects your head. So it is a bare minimum if you're not looking to invest even more as you go into more gnarly sort of conditions. But this works really well for what I've been doing lately. So helmet, definitely essential on a trip like this. Talking about safety equipment, even though this is only grade 1 or 2, there is a lot of power in water, and it's something that a lot of people underestimate when they're talking about rapids of any kind. And if you don't have enough knowledge, you really don't think that they're that dangerous until you learn a little bit more about them. And the reality is that things can happen. It's really, really fun, but things can go wrong. So it's really good to be prepared in case your boat gets pinned or someone goes in the water and they need rescuing. So for that reason, I have a pin kit. I've got some pulleys, a sling, and a bunch of carabiners that will allow me to do a mechanical advantage system if for some reason our boat gets pinned on a tree or a rock or something like that. And obviously we'll need some kind of rope to help with that. So this is a throw bag. It's 9mm, made of Spectra rope. So it's rated to about 18 kilonewtons or 1800 kilos. So it's got some strength to it. It's nice and lightweight. That'll go around my waist. So it's easily accessible if I need it. Hopefully we won't need it, but it's always good to be prepared and make sure that you're safe and know how to actually use this equipment. So it's all good and well to bring it, but you must know how to use it as well. So that's why I'll always recommend on any form of whitewater expedition that you're going with an experienced paddler that knows how to rescue and do whitewater safety practices, or that can help skill you up and basically someone you can learn from as you go. But nothing beats a proper coaching or course in order to learn these things properly. There are a bunch of places across a bunch of different states that you should be able to help with. So we do actually have an article that we did on whitewater. I'll leave the link to that down in the description, and it does list some of those places you can get instruction. Lastly, for a bit of comfort out on the water, I do a lot of kneeling in this whitewater environment and in flat water really. And the reason why you kneel is it actually gives you a great amount of stability through the rapids, as well as gives you a lot of control of the canoe on the flats. We did a video on kneeling and heeling. Again, I'll leave the link for that up in there so you can understand some of the benefits of it. But the kneeling mat makes a big difference to how much comfort you have. This one is nice and wide and has some good coverage, so I can move on the mat comfortably without having to modify how I kneel too much. So kneeling mat, another great option. You can make your own out of closed cell foam mat and some stuff to make it non-stick or stick to the boat, but this pre-made option works really well for me. So that concludes all the gear we'll be bringing on this trip. Just letting you know, this will be, again, a flat water section for one day, then across for a couple of hours, then across and up and over below Tallowa Dam, and the rest of the time will be a whitewater trip. I will be filming as I go, so that will be another video. If that's already edited together and put together, I'll put the link up here somewhere. If not, keep an eye out, like, subscribe to see more content like this, to see more packing videos, to see more information on canoes in general. We're trying to bring a whole lot more information to the canoeing space, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to leave down in the comments what sort of gear might you bring on a trip like this if you have some experience. Do you have any questions for us? We'll keep an eye out for those. We'll try and get back to you and let you know if there's some things that we can help you with. Till then, stay tuned and we'll get you on the next one. Thanks.